Good morning, Bookless classroom. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. I am here. We are here on day 301. Who could believe it? I can't believe it. Lots of things that are unbelievable. See our early bird class on miracles. Okay, so January 21st, let's do that first of all. It is a cold and blustery day outside. That being said, I love being indoors like this, right? I mean, snowed in. If I had, truth be told, a little Bailey's with a lover, I mean, as in a husband, I'm not that kind of a person. And you know, someone I had been with and very comfortable with for a long time, not a lover. Then how about that for content? Yep, I said it. It doesn't take a lot. Okay, let's get going because yesterday we forgot completely about our reading from Reader's Digest. Right there on the screen. Blip. So I put it number 1 on the screen, which didn't mean anything. I barely read the titles. Once they're made. Early birds I actually do. It's important to make sure you're getting the right thing to the right early bird. Alrighty, let's see. Did we do that? We did. We didn't put a check mark there is what we didn't do. All right. So we last read, if you remember, when you joined us, we were reading about the circus. And boy, does that not make you think about all of the political regulation and red tape that we can't even have a circus anymore, or that people couldn't enjoy a circus not without alcohol. It's for kids, but the adults have to bring them. I don't know what this drooling thing is. Do you? Know when you have that problem what it is? Or do you know when you have that problem? A test for American business. This is condensed from the New York Times, and it is by James Truslow Adams. And I don't know, Adams during this time, 1930, what is that? That's like ancient, wasn't he the first president? Anyway, historian, author of Epic of America, The March of Democracy, etc. That's the Reader's Digest. They keep things condensed. And also, it's really kind of funny because never mind. I thought that the back cover was always about Reader's Digest. It's not. Never mind. A test for American business. It appears to me that big businessmen, captains of industry, have reached a definite crisis unless they recognize a greater responsibility Unless they develop statesman-like qualities, they stand to lose in a wholly altered pattern of American life such leadership as they formerly enjoyed. For the social implications of President Roosevelt's increasing majorities in three successive elections are symptoms of crisis to which America has come. Fully to understand our present situation, we must go back to the past. A powerful force in forming our American civilization has been the American dream. That's what we talked about yesterday. In our early birds, has Martin Luther King gotten his dream for America? The American dream, that dream of a country with ample opportunity for the ordinary man, a land with no barriers of class or permanent privilege, a land in which every man may rise as fast and far as ability or luck may carry him. And, luck really is his talents and blessings and charisma. I don't think it's luck. I say where God will carry him. Okay, let's keep going. Translated into action, the guarantee of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness became the, quote, rugged individualism of our past. This made for extraordinarily rapid economic development. Back off. But with almost every American, big or little, striving to go as far as he could for his private advancement, little attention was paid to the larger social results of his acts. Those who arrived at the top ceased to bother about privilege because privilege was their advantage. But the vast majority who had not arrived rebelled about a generation against the accumulated abuses of the rugged individualist system. Politically, they seized power at regular intervals until defeated under Bryan in 1896. There's lots of references to Dewey. I know. Do we want to look at it up? Do you want to look it up? We do. I don't think I ever have. Ooh. I'm not going to worry about that. That's not what I was looking for anyway. There we go. Okay, let's look up. This is something you never see, and we've got it. You don't ever see me do the actual search. You don't ever get to see all my files. Oh, you know what I thought it was going to be in? I thought it was going to be in... Okay, you know what I thought it might be in? I thought it might be in our list of history. So I can't look it up. In other words, I can't look that up. What are you talking about, Bryan, in 1896? This is 1937. Who would ever remember what you're talking about without a reference? These uprisings have come after hard times, but hitherto the resources of our country have been so vast, the possibilities of prizes so great in good times that the depression over, big and little men alike again turned to rugged individualism as a working theory of government. They again glimpsed opportunities for themselves and have not wished a different system of government to interfere with them. Consequently, all previous uprisings have left little permanent trace on our institutions. World Heritage UNESCO sites. They have not all previous uprisings have left little permanent trace on our institutions or others, since we're jealous of those. I don't know. Yeah. We see economic advantage. So does that equate to jealousy? I don't know. It does equate to diligence and perseverance, though, doesn't it? But during the last generation, these conditions have changed. There is today no free land for the discontented. The new frontier is at the door of every home in the nation. Can the small American rediscover opportunity in the new pattern of our life? That is the problem which must be solved. And I believe that it must be solved by the business leaders. The people as workers and consumers cannot solve it unaided. The politicians, because of their close dependence on their electorates and their ignorance of business, are not likely to solve it. Until recently, our great businessmen were the acknowledged leaders in America's development. Their careers captured our imaginations. Morgan, Rockefeller, Ford, Hill, Harriman, such men, in spite of being sometimes personally hated, largely controlled America. They led it mostly, however, in the old way of ruthless individualism. For this, they were enormously rewarded with princely fortunes, and so long as all Americans felt opportunity open for themselves, they did not turn wholly from these leaders in spite of the waves of reform. Although Americans wish to retain as much freedom and private initiative as possible, they have, since the turn of the century, been coming to think more in social terms. The belief in the necessity for social solidarity rather than complete individualism has made great strides, especially since 1932. A leader has to be in harmony with the led. A leader has to be in harmony. The power of a railway king, a steel king, or a coal baron could continue so long as his kind and success in one form or another was the goal of the ordinary man. But the new goal of the ordinary man calls for new qualities in his leaders. Businessmen have been forced, to some extent at least, to recognize new conditions. In previous hard times, they expected the less fortunate to tighten their belts and starve if need be. They have found that men will no longer starve quietly, and that the old leadership means both colossal taxes and possible social upheaval. Colossal taxes and no answer to our social discord. Just more padding your you-know-what. We call it padding of the penis. Just say it. There have been other changes. Foreign trade has largely stopped. We no longer can keep factories going by dumping goods abroad. 1937, folks. Remember those barges with nowhere to go? We thought that poor people would take our garbage. Then we found out it's garbage. Then they found out it's garbage. Now, we don't throw anything away. Then they're like, do they hoard everything? Let's find out. Ninjas from Pakistan. I can go on with other countries. Have you seen the World Heritage sites in Pakistan? Actually, I am just astounded. Astounded. And now things are beginning to make sense to me. There have been other changes. Foreign trade has largely stopped. We no longer can keep factories going by dumping goods abroad, nor can the farmer, by selling overseas, remain a customer for the manufacturer. It is dawning on all the markets for goods must be created by raising the living standards and by consuming power of our own people. Business is beginning of people, consuming power of people. That's not what technology is doing, is it? Business is beginning to realize that perhaps business and the position of businessmen in the social group can be saved only by benefiting and not exploiting the masses. There is no profit in production if there is no market in which to sell. Thus, a more equitable division of the profits of industry has ceased to be a humanitarian problem and has become the practical one of assuring any profits at all. In this fact lies the hope that businessmen, as a class, will use their best brains in the interest of society as a whole. It is thus possible that society, still acting from the profit motive in a capitalistic framework, may yet evolve a more beneficial order than if it resorted to a wholly new experiment in government. Throughout the ages, the intellectual climate, as it has been called, has changed from time to time. For some decades, it has been tending to make us realize, as never before in history, the close correlation of our private good with the public good. Where is all this likely to lead us? Although many, like the writer, may heartily disagree with some of those means taken by Mr. Roosevelt to achieve his end, not even the most hidebound Republican would dare say that as an ideal he would oppose a more abundant life for all. The businessman has incurred a grave responsibility because he has pursued his way without sufficient thought of social consequences. He has poured an ever-increasing quantity of variety of goods before the public. He has used advertising and high-powered salesmanship to convince every man and woman that these new goods and services are absolutely essential to them. And now, unless he can provide the masses with increasing means to buy the things he has taught them they should have, his production may prove most disastrous to the stability of society. The chief problem is one of wider distribution of business profits and lowered cost of business products. The government seems to sense only one half of it. What business leaders may sense and what they may do remain to be seen. But if progress cannot be made by business leaders along the lines suggested, then the people, although they cannot solve the problem, will almost certainly try to do so by causing the government more and more to take over private enterprise. Business, on the other hand, may have the sense and capacity to adapt itself to new conditions and continue its leadership, as in England, the land of compromise. We cannot stand still. If the businessmen are to become leaders, they must not only make some progress in solving the problem, but also must regain the confidence which they have largely lost. And now they have lost because there are businessmen in Congress. So basically still doing their same old shit. Here it is, 2025, almost 100 years later. Give the big middle finger to the common sense of Reader's Digest in 1937. Make America great again. What does that mean? If they cannot do this, then they will have to meet the fate of every class which has been unable to adjust itself to changed conditions and thus has outlived its social usefulness. What up? What up? Test for American business. What up? Okay. Well, I'm going to our next little, because we could read the whole thing. Oh, this is a good one. We're doing 2 today. So we said it. A test for American business and the next article, which I didn't even bother to look up because we're just reading it. I didn't know what it was. We're reading it. We skipped one yesterday and we're on a mission with the resolution. We don't forget those things like some easy peasy little mush brain stardom seeking congressperson. I'm sorry, who was the transvestite leading the Republican convention? Speaking first at the Republican convention? Who's become the progressives? Nice job, progressives, attaching yourself to the Republican Party. Nice job. I couldn't have done it better. The customer is usually wrong. Oh, is this good? Get your coffee, girls. This is a good article. I'm actually going to moisturize my lips. I feel that I keep having to lick them, and I'm just doing it with Blistex, but not sexy. But on the air. Yeah! This is a good article. Listen up, you traditional, progressive, white supremacist Republican hypocrites. John Wanamaker started the mischief when he proclaimed the customer is always right. Other department stores found it imperative to meet competition by following suit. The policy has sent many an executive to an early grave, and worse still, it has become appallingly expensive for the customer. Take the return evil, for example. Now, I did this once and got caught and done. They're like, are you buying a bunch of dresses? I'm like, that's what I was told I could do over here at the store. I did it once at the store. But they were closing. They told me I could do it. I said, I don't do this. I don't like doing it. And I took 3 dresses, $200, almost $200 each. A good $600, $700 bill. It was for a wedding, so it was a special occasion, but still. Found the dress, almost identical to it, at the used store, at the whatever, consignment shop, for probably $25, not even $25. Took all 3 of the dresses back. Oh, girl. That sales commission was spent out the door. She thought I was keeping 3 dresses. I told her, you know I'm taking, so don't spend that commission. Because I don't spend that money. Okay. So, what is this? Take the return evil, for example. In stores doing mostly a charge business, returns run as high as 19%. All right, that's a lot. That's a lot. 1 dress out of every 4 sold in exclusive specialty shops comes back. 1 out of every 4 dresses sold in exclusive specialty shops comes back. That's a real snooty tooty attitude. Many women seem to do their shopping after their buying. They send home half a dozen garments for consultation with husband, mother, sister, and perhaps the cook until one is finally selected. First scarves are returned after having been worn at a tea party. Now, I have to say, my aunts and my friend Kathy did that all the time. My aunts, grandma, but she kept some of them too. There was a fox with the head in her closet. The Monday following a big football game is a Roman holiday for the return of fur coats. In the pockets may be found cosmetics, handkerchiefs, and half-empty bottles of liquor. Houses are virtually redecorated for some gala event. After the ball is over, calls are received to pick up rugs, chairs, glassware, and china. Often, not all the food has been washed off the dishes. Not long ago, a load of furniture was sent to a customer in a New York suburb. As the van turned into the driveway, it was met by a truck from a rival concern coming out empty. The lady had accounts at both stores and had calmly ordered from the second shop duplicates of every piece of furniture she had supposedly purchased from the first. The fact that it cost $35 to send out each truck was something she never considered. She wanted to compare A's furniture with B's. In the end, she decided not to buy any of it. She shut the house for the winter and went south. That sounds exactly like my sister, and it sounds exactly like Kathy. Exactly. They would have done this in 2000. They would have done it. We've seen tags on her dresses at gala events. I didn't believe it till I saw the tag. She didn't want to rewear the dress. So she didn't want to buy the dress. A good many returns, of course, are unavoidable. Stores make mistakes. They deliver the wrong article or the wrong size or deliver it late. But most returns are not justifiable. Every survey shows that more than half are in no way the store's fault. Even in medium-sized department store, no fewer than 20, even in a medium-sized department store, no fewer than 23 persons are involved in getting an article to a customer and back in stock. The cost runs from 30 to 60 cents an item. Returns entail an annual outlay of $50 million for wasted labor alone. The indirect and intangible costs of the extra space required for returned merchandise, damage and breakage, the settling of unjust claims, and the loss of potential sales while goods are out are impossible to estimate. The customer is usually wrong, too, in complaints against salespeople. Madame returns a pair of scrim curtains in rags. The girl assured me they were washable, she says, and look at them. Discreet questioning brings out that the curtains had been put into a washing machine. Salespeople are definitely instructed to call attention to unusual delicacy to forestall the complaint. It didn't wear. Another popular accusation when credit is refused because a returned article is not in good condition is that the salesperson said, "Take this out and use it and see how you like it." This statement may be made occasionally by a foolish employee, but stores emphatically discourage such wiles. The records of salespeople are carefully checked for returns as well as sales. Now the trouble with the whole policy is that it defeats its own ends. Everybody employs it. Store A does not gain a single customer by being idiotically lenient when Store B is doing exactly the same thing. Again, a single incident may destroy the effect of years of patient acquiescence to whims. Our customer spilled ink on a new glove. She demanded a new pair because although the gloves had been guaranteed washable, the spot would not come out. The buyer explained that no amount of washing will remove ink stains. The customer was furious and never dealt with the store again. Maintaining the fiction. Now that sounds like a child, right? That sounds like you're dealing with a child, one way or another. I mean, it could have happened. Were you giving credence to some emperor who was 8 years old? Because they might expect that. I remember as a child thinking that being washable meant that things would wash out. But that was as a child. Maintaining the fiction that the customer is always right has created a problem of such proportions that there are continual attempts to combat it. And now that has created such a problem in the continual attempts to combat it. Rules are made and broken. One store wraps garments in cellophane and says it will not take them back if the wrapper is broken. Another affixes seals. In some stores, the credit given for returned goods is only 75% of the original price. Time limits ranging from 3 to 10 days are set. Central testing bureaus settle some of the arguments about defective merchandise. Yet only in Washington, D.C., where women's clubs participated in the campaign, has there been substantial decrease in returns. Repeated attempts in Boston, Dallas, Detroit, and New Orleans have met with little success. During a campaign in San Francisco, the period that goods were kept out decreased 40%, but total returns decreased only 5%. Reporting habitual returners to a central bureau and refusing them credit precisely as if they were bad pay, as now is done in many communities, is a firm step in the right direction. Anywhere but in small town, a single store is helpless. Anywhere but in a small town, a single store is helpless, and it is difficult to get merchants to act together. In one city, all the stores agreed at a meeting to be adamant about time limits. 2 days later, the largest store in town advertised in all the papers, "We set no time limits on returns." That was Target. I remember some of this stuff. Even this was 1937. It's just a turnover of the same events. We set no time, or the plan had to be abandoned until the next "what shall we do about it" session. And let me also not ignore the little "anywhere but in small town, a single store is helpless." That's because they know your reputation in a small town, and they will not put up with that kind of reputation in a small town. Get your lazy fat ass out of here. It's a small town. Don't you know the regulations here? We don't do that to one another because they're our neighbor, and we treat our neighbor like the golden rule. The solution in the last analysis rests with customers. Most of them are women. They should learn to shop as men do. Returns in men's departments are strikingly lower than elsewhere. Men, more accustomed to business dealings than women, are less prone to make absurd demands. The average man, yes, but they're also less prone to understand, and you have to understand this: your sinister rulings on everything. I might think washable does mean that things will wash out of it. I promise you I thought that about ink stains. I promise you I did. Now, that may have been a little less insightful than some of my classrooms, but I was a kid. And knowing my mom, she probably made me make the argument, and that's how they return things in my family. You can better believe that shit. That is for sure. And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Get the kid to argue it. Nobody can say no to a kid. That's probably why the department store turned it over. That was an implant, right? And I don't mean these, right? No, they are not. I know. Yeah, and that's probably where that imposter brought that child to Macy's, and then had that child explain to the Macy's manager while they were filming Miracle on 32nd Street or whatever it was, right? While they were filming that, I think it's 34th. While they were filming that, my mom would have brought me crying about my new gloves. Why? Because she never bought me a Christmas present, and that was from Santa Claus, and she probably told me I could use ink on them. That's what, not probably, she did. That's what washable means. And so my brand new beautiful gloves that had fur on them had an ink stain on them. Thanks, Shar. Thanks, Shar. The solution in the past analysis rests with customers. Most of them are women. They should learn to shop as men do. The average man has less time to waste. He wants to get his business over as rapidly and painlessly as possible, and he hasn't the leisure to spend hours in comparative shopping expeditions or in arguing over imaginary grievances. All right, grievances are not always imaginary, and in this day and age, they are not imaginary at all. I had those slime ball, it was disgusting. Those people who were doing the lawn there. They were disgusting. They were depraved animals is what they were. I'm surprised they didn't take a friggin' dump right on my lawn. I'm sure they did. I'm sure that was what that was over there too. A human dump. Human. If women curbed their proverbial privilege of changing their minds, they would not only bring light into the lives of harassed employees and help solve the traffic problem by eliminating trucks loaded with unwanted merchandise from China that you paid nothing for, that you were making economic millions on, but they would also materially benefit the family budget by lowered prices. Well, yeah, you're just going to instigate everything by hiring the prices for your criminal activity. So I found this to be very interesting, right? I found it to be very interesting. Where's the criticism of this argument or this article relative to the one we read in Early Birds that we didn't read here, which was from a Jewish person considered anti-Semitic, Children of the Martyr Race. And they sang that song, Children of the Martyr Race, whether free or fettered, wake the echoes with your song where ye may be scattered. Biblically speaking, they were scattered. I mean, this is just real extraordinary stuff that we are investigating. And I say that with such contemplation, with such reflection in my face and voice, because I am utterly astounded by these UNESCO sites. I cannot get over them. I can't get over what they are physically, nor can I get over what they mean, and I'm going to use proverbially. I think that's the word. Yeah. And what I mean by that is like Proverbs, baby. I mean like Mesopotamia. Like the earth in your fingers, original earth. Like that stuff. And I showed, and I can't show you out of order. I just can't do it. But Early Birds got to see Lena Horne Pirelli and the Pillars, and I'm telling you, they're Russian. I don't know why they would name them Pirelli, but they are exceptional. See Early Birds. I don't want to joke about a beautiful sight like that. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. The Lena Pillars. So very simple. The Lena Pillars. Hats off to you, Russia. Hats off to you. Stay closed if that's what it means. If that's what it means to keep out those people who have I don't know. But I do know but I do know what I've read. And what I've read is, and of course you can only believe 50% of what you read, if any of it at all, from what I understand, or 50% of what you hear, 10% of what you see. Who even know? No, none of what you hear, 50% of what you see. That's what it is. So what I've heard and read was that we had ships in the Pacific that were saying, open up your doors. And this just basically is open up your doors. And that might be fair, but it also might be fair that people who you're yelling at to open up their doors might be keeping you out because you might just look for resources there, right? So now the only place that you can conquer and be king of is Greenland, which is all ice. But who really knows if it's all ice? You know what I'm saying? Is that the hope? Okay. So let's keep going. I don't know. I'm thinking of who knows what about the details, right? Who knows what about the details? Who knows what's true and what's not true? But cross your fingers, baby, that your eyes someday will fall on these, and there are so many of them. Like it could bring you to tears. The unbelievable lifetime pleasures that you would see, and going to Disneyland? No. And knowing that in a socialist environment, you would have everything you need provided for, as well as 2 vacations a year. That's what we're using our planes for. That's it, not business. Who do you do business with? You do business with the local people. We don't need you scattering your ass over here and then other places all around. No. Local people do local business, and when we have to do trades, we know our tradesperson. Well, it's not a union guy either, right? And all your union contracts that detract from people. Don't think I forgot that union contract that you agreed to after the fact, saying you wouldn't not agree to this or that, and we ended up having less over there, and then you got rid of the loudmouth. Who's the loudmouth? Well, right now, that's you. That's you. Don't point the finger at me. I haven't changed one bit. Son of a bitches. So, let's get to the teary-eyed events. What is she talking about? I'm talking about... it's not teary-eyed other than the fact that, the fact that we have these and there is anything in our DNA that would have you destroy any possibility in somebody's DNA that they might destroy these kinds of sites, anything in your DNA. That's when I would get those little wires in there and then really start with the DNA. So, got the gentleman out there who's doing his job. It's always nice to see people working. It just is. It's a good sight to see people working. You don't want them to work too hard. It's not a good sight to see somebody breaking their back. That's for sure. Falling off a building. Stuff like that. Okay, let's keep going. So, we were looking at now and actually, you know what I didn't do? Is I didn't look at the criteria to be UNESCO. Now, that to me is you can say whatever. Oh, I thought I had that up there. I do not. You can say whatever you want about Oh, I lost the thought. I'll figure it out. Un momento. Let me get this figured out. Okay. Lucy? No. Good girl. No, you sit down, go night-night. No more. So now, I said no more. You know what? I did want to get some coffee. So I'll keep you eyes. And in fact, that isn't the exact picture, but it's close. Quiet. Sit down. You sit down. Enough. I'm going to go get some more coffee. Well, you take a look at some of that. And quiet her down. Nice job. Huma Huma? That's the artist. It's called Whiskey. And I don't drink anymore, but I have honestly been thinking about it. It's so cold, and you know what? Their alcohol warms you up. Not for the bookless, whatever, young people here, but, or, you know, that age group here. But boy, I do remember it warming you up on the inside like nobody's business. That's for sure. And no, coffee does not do that. And when it's cold here, like you're in Alaska over here, that is that's pretty doggone cold. That's for sure. Hey, I have a little arrow up there, don't I? I love when I find those little pointers in my picture. See way up there, way up in the right-hand corner. Okay, so let's get to these that are literally, practically, they're not bringing me to tears, but in a different mindset, they absolutely would. And you know, I have always said, you know God through his creation. And I haven't said it, I have repeated that from scripture, although I don't know exactly where it is in scripture. But I could find it. I do have Bible Gateway up there, right there. But you know, and it's New Testament. And you will know God. You will know him through his works. You will know people of God through their works. Hello. And you will know him through his creation. I was thinking as I went to go get coffee that if you have not, and this is another thing that's so detrimental to the American system, and that is that the family is not part of one another's work. That my family never saw me teach in front of a classroom except for now on the video, right? And this is the same thing other than I'm sitting down, so a lot more relaxed. But no, they never came to a class of mine to see me. I don't think that they ever did. I don't think so. But my dad did, and my sister did, and that's because I made my dad, and my sister then drove him and came along. So, okay, but I made him. See what your daughter does for a living. For Pete's sake, you don't even understand. But he probably understood. He just didn't, it wasn't in the script, as far as I can tell. My mom didn't care. I figure it's been, it hasn't, no, it has been, what are we saying? 10, 14 years. 14 years. Some, you might bring up a few things. Is that allowed? In wondering, I wouldn't have to contemplate it if I wasn't in this mess. So the thing I didn't look up was the criteria of UNESCO. But one of the reasons why I didn't look, it was there in front of my face. We had a lot, and I was so impressed because there's nonstop World Heritage sites. Nonstop World Heritage sites. And that is so commendable because you have to say, you can be part of this, America, or you don't have to be. You want to be more critical about making sure that Israel has got a bigger place in this. Well, Israel's a spot like this. Israel's a spot like that. Israel's a spot like that. You can see through it on the map, right? And so now other places might lay greater claim. And the whole thing about that is, did you put your foot and your stamp in this area? Well, we'll give you this area, but even still, we're watching everything that you do in that area. You will not take ownership, build resources. You can have that. You've got a reputation, Western world. You have a reputation. And you call it progressive, you call it whatever you want to call it, right? So this what I felt was enough because we really did want to get to, which we've gotten to a lot of throughout. Because we've seen this picture before, so we've already gotten to some of these. And the whole beginning of this, I said, was with the salt, but it also was then what World Heritage sites are associated with Cyrus the Great. All right. So we've gotten through these World Heritage sites. This being the first one, with reason being, come and step in, right? And then the beautiful gift that they gave to a European country, right? The beautiful gift that they gave to Spain. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So much of this is inspiring, not just the peace itself, as in PIECE, but the PEACE that it brings in seeing it, and the PEACE that is brought when you do this work together, not in your own small community, but really on an earthly, worldly level. The things that can be accomplished. And I have to say, because I'm a believer, and the first thing I want my son to teach my sons to teach my grandchildren about is about God and the inspiration of God and the meaning of these godly things. I have pictures of that barge, and it's all of a sudden looking strangely familiar to this. Some things disappeared. It was given in a sign of gratitude. Well, I don't know. A couple buddies drunk on, and who remembers what. And so then we went through the salt mines, right? Because that was what was brought up in my 1937 Reader's Digest about these beautiful salt mines, and still seems to be somewhat mysterious, doesn't it? I mean, as far as if they're open for production, they were open for production in the 13th century. They were already there. They already existed. And there is a giant, I said this about Poland, but I didn't say this as a general statement that let me find the salt mine. And once again, you don't very often see, where did I put that? Yeah. No. There we go. Doing the searches, but let's take a look at that. So that is Poland, and look at all of these that have links. So I didn't give you the big picture here. Is this Europe? Yeah. And so that's how many are in Poland. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 different sites in Poland. Look at that. I mean, it's breathtaking. I don't know anything about this. Moskwa Park is a landscape park in the upper Lusatia region of Germany and Poland. It is the largest and one of the most famous English gardens in Central Europe. And look at that. Look at our cities here in the United States. What about our cities have we done to bring about peace and beauty? Oops. I wanted to bring this up, but I can't. And then have that rolled over. So I could see what you could see. But you're able to see that whole thing, right? Let me watch right here. Oh, I can't. What is she talking about again? Let me roll over. I don't know how much you can see. Look at, I'm rolling over. This is Centennial Hall. Okay, that looks like about a lot of things. All this German influence, by the way, too, right? That's not quite a picture, but that is. Now, I must also say, as I came here into this, the influence probably is a lot of Christian slash or Catholic slash Christian influence. So the Crusades were done by Catholics, but they called themselves Christians, right? Which is why the Lutherans broke off. Hey, that's not Christianity to us. We're Christians. You're Catholics. Who even knows whether they called themselves Catholics? Could have been the Lutherans, the start of the Reformation that began to distinguish themselves, right? Okay, so this is not this map. That's what we're preserving. Pieces like this were brought out of Mesopotamia. They called them this is the what I was saying. It was very familiar to this barge. Doesn't it? That what were we just looking at? The this. Doesn't that look like doesn't that look like that could be that? Because those sure do look like they are. What ended up happening here, well, we're going to get to it. This is the Kurna disaster. So you might want to take a look at that and look it up and see what you... There are just so many philosophical, theoretical, moralistic ideologies that are attached to these World Heritage sites. This Kurna disaster is when they were transporting some of these as part of, what was it part of? It was part of getting the archaeological findings back to or from these areas to a known site. And it may have been this known site Yeah. So these are artifacts that are taken from Mesopotamia area that came up missing, yet amazingly you don't get to see that picture. Showed up with Rockefeller in our museums. Now, we've talked about this winged horse before. And all of a sudden, in this research, I'm coming up with this Kurna disaster that looks as if Europe and Western people are getting a hold of artifacts for display. Now, that being said, this UNESCO project is amazing. It is a world group dedicated to exactly what they said they were dedicated to, which is environment, social, and what was the last one? Community? I don't remember. Causes, cultural causes. And having, in a peaceful way, without any bloodshed, a unified organization brought together to appreciate and look at for the people, not the scientists, not the archaeologists, not the geologists, for the people, so that they know their history, so that they know their heritage. That the World Heritage Sites, I just don't think that I have seen anything more inspirational than I've come across on these sites. Nothing more inspirational than what I've come across on these sites. So that gives you a little bit more of the meat and potatoes of what we're looking at. Babylon is one of the sites. Where are we on our, oh, I thought that you had that up there, but you don't. So good. I'm glad. I'll give you one more then. So we talked about Krakow, Poland. And did I give you this very first one? Now, this is extraordinary because when I'm reading the background of all of this was the oldest site then. And I did read this, right? But as I'm reading the background, I'm like, this is rubble. And I'm also, asking about this. This is rubble. Well, when you read the background and you're looking at these areas, these oldest areas, I really need to see this on the map. But it's in Turkey. The thing about what I find out and why I'm hesitating is because there's some information about this that's associated with Babylon that I don't want to give you the little, I just gave you a hook for it. That's all I'm going to give you. The last slide right up here in this series so far is Babylon. I'll probably put a few more in, but maybe Babylon will stay our last slide in this. I want to put a few more in for tomorrow, I think. Although we haven't gotten to many of them, so we'll see if I add some more or not. I like them instead of like necessarily going down and just clicking on the pictures and seeing, which is what I did. I really prefer to give it at least a little bit of the respect that it deserves by being, on a PowerPoint. But there's something to be said. This is at or near what you're talking about as the beginnings of life. So again, World Heritage Site that isn't getting their hands all over things, but discovering some amazing, amazing things. All right, so this is in Luxor, Egypt. This is Luxor, Egypt. This is the World Heritage Site giving the big middle finger to your STEM universities and all your promises with your science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Build me this. Get your students to build these, to take our cities and rebuild our cities. Do this. STEM research. Stop with your drugs. Stop with your stem cell research creating what you call, oh, come on. Come on. What happens when there's a cell? It's not a morphing. It is when a cell is a mutation. Stop creating your mutations because that's what you're creating. And get your students at the universities to turn our cities into ancient rubble. turn our cities into what ancient rubble would eventually look like, when that ancient rubble would eventually look like. Did you get it? Get it? On the East Bank, beneath the modern city of Luxor, lie the remains of an ancient town that from about 1500 to 1000 BC was one of the most spectacular in Egypt, with a population of 50,000. I read this yesterday, didn't I? The city of Thebes, but I didn't give it all this background. The city of the god Ammon was the capital of Egypt during the Middle and New Kingdom from around 2150 BC, featuring the West Temple complexes of Karnak and Luxor and the tombs in the Valley of the Kings. Thebes was one of the first sites listed by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in 1979. And there's Thebes on the map there in the middle of Egypt, which I know I forgot. I went through yesterday. We went through these 10 things to see in Thebes. And then the other thing I want to show you is, that's not it. Although look up there, because these are some of the sites that I was using. This is what I want to show you. So this website I do have down below, and this is where I got the list of the top 10 still standing highlights in the ancient city of Thebes. So you have 10 highlights. So in my socialist picture, you would have the basic necessities, and if you wanted 0 to 3 trips a year with your family. But if you're not taking any trips with your family, we're going to investigate why you wouldn't be taking trips with your family. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you don't have to. It's just that they have to get worldly cultural education, and it would be really at your disposal. So you can get there. You can take these vacations locally and drive if you want, right? Or if you're a person that flies, you would get 0 to 3 vacations a year, whatever your choice is, right? And in one place on this list of World Heritage Sites, so if you go to Thebes in Egypt, remember, is minuscule compared to what it used to be, and all of the possibilities across that region when it was an empire, and all of the things then that we can credit Egypt for as far as ancient relics goes, ancient cities, the pyramids, all of those things that stretch well beyond Egypt, right? In one place of ancient Mesopotamia, Indus Valley, you've got 10 sites that include King Tut's site, the Luxor Temple, the Valley of the Queens. Are you kidding me? So that's what I would propose for in my socialist. What am I taking your taxes for? For social, for what is it? Environmental, social, and cultural living. Your production is what you want to produce, and as a human species, with God's plan above our heads, we will produce exactly what we need. We needed economics to tell us that. No, we needed the white man to tell us that. Cross one eye. I can do it. I'll have to see that in the lineup. All right, that's it for today. A big repeat of yesterday, but don't forget, we get the philosophical, the theological, the theoretical, what's one more of those? Healthological background, inspirational background of all of this here in the classroom, because we have our priorities straight. Look at that. Oh, thank you, stem cell research. Can I go in a bland, vanilla colored room with some slides of I don't even know what that repeat themselves over and over again. Can I do that for you, university, at $15,000 a year? Could I please go back to that? Or maybe I could live the life in ancient Thebes. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. Thanks so much for helping me help you keep your mind, your body, and your spirit healthier.